Hey y'all, and welcome to Janet being Janet. So today I'm gonna show you another video about Josh. So let's see what Miss Kitey has to say today.
Hey besties, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel.
I know most of y'all don't watch her channel, that's why you're here for me.
Let's talk about Josh Duggar because he just had 82 days added to his sentence. And
any chance you get to talk about Josh, you're gonna take it.
His new release date is in December 23rd of 2032. And yesterday we discussed the possibility that this could have been related to Josh Duggar having a cell phone.
No, you had a speculation about it, but all you could say is, I don't know.
Now, the reason why I said this was because back in May, someone at Seagaville has a loved one that's in.
So, in other words, there's one person who knows another, who knows another, who knows another. And that's how you get your information on him, right, Miss Katie?
In these dorms that are for model inmates. It's a system that's set up where the better you do, the more privileges you receive. And
isn't that called the honor dorms? I'm pretty certain that's the name of them, but of course I could be wrong.
And if you are in this one specific model inmate dorm, you get to do activities and have access to privileges that nobody else does. But in order to get into this dorm, you have to have good behavior.
And we know Josh ain't got no good behavior, so that means he was in there because of his celebrity?
And you have to sign like a code of conduct, apparently. And someone who had a loved one in these dorms posted on like May 17th that there had
posted on what, Miss Katie? Come on, you gotta tell us where you get your info from.
Been a shakedown in the dorms and 6 cell phones had been found.
You enjoy being able to sound like you know exactly what happens in the legal system all the way down to the prison.
So if cell phones are found, what happens is the individual that has the cell phone or is using the cell phone ends up being disciplined. And discipline can range from being put into the segregation housing unit, which...
Are you talking about ADSEG? Is that what you're talking about? But I thought Josh was treated special.
Is the SHU. They can also have time added on.
I'm still not used to the word SHU. I still stick to the whole.
To their sentence. They can be restricted in the amount of money they get for commissary. They can have visitation restricted. They can have calls restricted.
But if Jim Bob isn't paying for Josh anymore, isn't he already restricted?
There's a whole list of disciplinary options.
Disciplinary, Miss Katie. Come on, you're our famous reporter. We gotta make sure we get them words out right.
That happen in federal prison. And Josh went through this back in 2023. He had a phone and he was placed in the SHU for a couple months. And then when he got out of the SHU, they added 40 or 51 days to his prison sentence.
All right, Miss Katie, now let me just say to you, you need to get your information completely straight on this one. Last time, all you wanted to say was, I don't know.
Now this time around, Josh has had 82 days added to his prison sentence. Well, back in September of 2024, The Sun had reported that he had been moved into a renovated dorm.
Wasn't it The Sun that you were stealing articles from and didn't give any credit? I think it was. But you know what? If someone doesn't give you credit, you immediately get mad and start throwing a tissy fit.
With special amenities. And the amenities included painting the walls and getting flowers put into dorm 6 where he lives. It's been turned into an honors dorm.
So he still lives in dorm 6, right? So he is in an honor dorm.
They get privileges and building updates because it's an honors dorm. There are washers and dryers, microwaves, and more. They're trying to create a dorm of model inmates. So most inmates
But the way you talk about Josh, he's not a model inmate, so why in Malarkey would he even be there?
Inmates don't get access to their own laundry. They don't get access to doing, microwaves for commissary. So, they're getting special privileges.
But if he's getting no money, once again, I'm gonna say there's no way he's getting commissary.
They added that they can't have any disciplinary actions in a certain amount of time. They have to have a job and they have to sign a code of conduct agreement. They think that Josh was getting special treatment because
You repeating yourself over and over throughout each and every video is getting rather annoying. And the reason why you do that, and I will stick by it, is because you want more run time, which means you get more ching ching.
because he doesn't have the qualifications to even live in the dorm. He doesn't work, but he is getting a degree, and they're counting on that as an exception so he can stay. He
Oh, so he's getting an education while he's in prison. Yeah, there's a lot of people that do that.
would be disqualified according to their rules from living there because of his shoe time a couple of years ago, but they've decided to waive that for him.
Well, what do they, since you know everything there is to know about prison, I just got a question. What in the world are they supposed to do with him at this point? He's not a good boy, obviously. So where exactly are they going to stick him? Even though he's going in to get an education, doesn't mean that they should keep him somewhere he doesn't need to be.
Now, I don't know if this has somehow changed, but
How in the world are we still doing another video where all you say is, I don't know?
Josh has always been in the same housing unit of Unit 6. So if he was in the unit
You are stumbling once again. I'm telling you something, this woman don't know what to say, but she's gonna say it.
housing 6 to begin with, and then they decided to turn it into a dorm for like good behavior. I'm not sure. But
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and apologize for Miss Katie, because obviously she don't know anything and she ain't for sure about nothing.
he at that point had already been in Unit 6. But apparently at that point they had decided to make Unit 6 into a dorm.
Anyone else feel like they want to slap their forehead? I mean, seriously, there isn't a bigger word than duh.
Seagoville is a low security facility, so they don't live in cells. They don't have their doors locked. They're not behind bars. They have they have units that have 2 beds, 4 beds, 8 and 12. And
Miss Katie, let me just say something. If you're going to bring Duggar coverage, can you do me a favor and actually get information on Josh before you start just posting videos? Here's my thing. You do not post sister-wise videos every single day. You post Blake videos without a problem getting your money, but you kind of started out as a Duggar channel and you ignore that audience for as long as you possibly can until you need them.
and depending on which house they live in, and there's a number of different units and buildings, they have different levels of security in terms of like what they have to do and what kind of privileges they get. So he was apparently in this unit that had been changed.
Listen to her. I mean, seriously, listen to her and how she's talking. She doesn't need to be posting videos about Josh right now because I don't think she has the intel for it.
To a higher, like a lower level, even within the low security. His specific house also was one of the few that had air conditioning. So apparently, when the new warden came in, there was a ton of shakedowns.
And I'm sorry if y'all didn't get to hear my last video. My audio messed up a little bit. But let me just go ahead and tell you, I kind of didn't miss much because this is exactly what Miss Katie was talking about in the last one.
And some people got caught with cell phones, contraband, and drugs, and people got disciplined. I don't know if obviously Josh was caught up at that time.
Should we start taking count, Miss Kitey, of how many times you say you don't know something? Now you're telling the truth.
It appears it happened sometime in May, maybe between March and May, that he got in trouble. This specific house.
See, now there's my point. She hasn't been catching up with Josh or caught up with Josh. She's trying to catch up with Josh because usually she would know exactly when something's happening with Joshy Poo.
I mean, the Unit 6 was a luxury because there are people that are incarcerated at Seagoville in Texas that don't have air conditioning. And if you know anything about Texas, it gets extremely hot.
Yeah, I know a lot about Texas. Trust me, born and raised.
So, he was someone that was benefiting from having accommodations that many people that are at Seagoville do not have.
Okay, so do you always have to take pictures of their kids and plaster them all over your screen? I understand they're public figures, but there has to be a little thin line whenever you start thinking about it when it comes to kiddos. You don't want yours online, and neither do I.
Well, apparently now someone told the Sun that he had been moved out of the dorm, and they said he's no longer living in the honors dorm. He has been.
Hey, if you're reading an article or you're suggesting that it came from an article, why don't you put it up on your screen the same way you do with Blake? Because there's not a lot for you to read now, is there?
Transferred to a regular one, and they're not sure of why he was transferred out of the lavish dorm. But he had been living there for nearly a year. Now, I don't know if this has somehow changed, but Josh has always been in the same housing unit of unit.
Okay, and it's mostly because of him being on TV and probably his crime. You know, crimes like that don't do well in prison.
It's 6. So if he was in the unit housing 6 to begin with, and then they decided to turn it into a dorm for like good behavior, I'm not sure. But
see, I'm leaving all of this in here so you can see exactly what kind of coverage Miss Kitey is doing on Josh Duggar. All it is a name for you to click on.
But he, at that point, had already been in Unit 6. But apparently, at that point, they had decided to make Unit 6 into a dorm. So we know a couple things now. 2 months ago,
I know absolutely nothing because you know absolutely nothing, and you've admitted it this entire video.
Added, and he's moved out of the dorm that he was in. That means he's literally been really messed up, right? And there is like a step that they can go through.
You know, since I've been watching you here lately, I have the term in my head, right? And I say it now. That tells you how often you ask your audience if you're right.
Within the federal government and the prison system, where inmates that are at low security facilities, if they have so many disciplinary actions within a specific amount of time, they can actually be moved from a low security facility into like a medium security or even.
Okay, wait a second. Are you saying that the only problem there is with Josh is he's getting caught with cell phones? Is that what you're trying to say? Well, look at me. I summed it up.
Into a max security if necessary. So there's like a lot of steps that happen to inmates when they get in trouble. It's also super common that inmates get transferred to different facilities while they're locked up.
Woman, we ain't talking about all inmates. We're supposed to be talking about Josh Duggar.
It's pretty common that an inmate will be at multiple facilities for their entire sentence. Some stay in the same facility, but often they get transferred to different facilities. So if he's moved out of the specialty dorm, that
if, not he was, if.
Means he's no longer a model prisoner, and I don't think he ever really was.
Then why are you making this video and all of the other videos?
Now he would be more than likely in a building that does not have air conditioning, meaning he'll be dealing with, heat and all of that goes
Dehydration.
into being a prisoner in Texas. And then if he were to continue with this kind of behavior and he still has phones, they can move him into another prison altogether.
Pretty much once you're in prison, they own you until you get out of prison. Goodness gracious, Miss Katie.
Where it's higher security and he gets even fewer privileges. So when you're locked up and you're trying to make the best of your life, most people, I mean, if they care about using this for their time.
You are so daggum boring. You really are. You're monotone. Half the time you don't know what to say. You don't edit anything, so we get stuck with videos like this.
For the right reasons to rehabilitate themselves and to do better in their lives and, use the time to get degrees or whatever it is, you try to make your time as effective as possible. It would appear that Josh,
when you're in prison, the only thing you have is time.
Is still entitled and living in this mindset that he can do whatever he wants.
And I think you're just a little bit entitled and know you can post any video you want and you're going to get clicks from it.
That he doesn't have to play by the rules. He doesn't have to, do what everyone else does.
Hey, funny, that sounds a little bit like you.
The fact that he's gotten 2 disciplinary actions is, I feel like this was predicted. All of this was predicted.
By you or someone else? Because right now you're not using your own info.
When Josh was sentenced, there was this huge display from the family. Jim Bob got all of these people to write letters.
Oh, y'all remember when all this happened about Josh? Man, all she could do was post video after video after video. She was just embroiled in this entire court case. She was so deep in it that she was picking on Anna about wearing the same dress on another day. She didn't like that.
And all of them promised the judge that this would be the only time that Josh would ever get in trouble. They would never be before the court with any other issues. He would be a model prisoner. He would not have any disciplinary actions. They literally promised that this one time.
You know what? Nobody can promise that. Not even Josh would promise that to himself. Because that's not normally what happens. You have to roll with the flow in there and you get yourself bored.
Should not represent the entirety of who Josh was. And the judge in the case was moved by the fact that he had so much support, so much so that he was, impressed with the fact that his devoted wife and mother and father were willing to dedicate their lives to help him rehabilitate.
Hey, I got a question for you, and it's just a question. Were you the one that was listening in on the court case and they said no pictures or anything like that, but were you the one that got them in trouble for having an online open court room? I was going to say system, but that's wrong.
Rehabilitate once he gets out of prison. And they were going to offer all kinds of support. And the prosecutors in the case were not at all moved by anything that was written in the letters. In fact, their assessment of Josh was that he was, for all intents and purposes.
Y'all pay attention right now up in the screen. She's got an info card to Blake Lively's video, not to another Duggar video she did. Now I can't talk. I tell you something, she wears off on me. But it's not to another Duggar video. We gotta go to Blake.
Is someone that could never be reformed. That his level of entitlement and narcissism and mental games that he played.
Hey, you're kind of comparing yourself to Josh and not even knowing it, because there's plenty of people out here that call you a narcissist.
He would never take for responsibility for what he's done. He would always find someone else to blame. They pointed out the fact that he kept pointing fingers at all these other people, even though there was no evidence.
Sometimes I just get to thinking, I kind of think you're a little bit of jelly because you're not in a Duggar world, especially since you lost Amy as a friend.
He continued to deny any responsibility. And the fact that he was denying any responsibility in the role, they said would probably mean that once he got to prison, he wouldn't do any of the programming necessary.
Let's turn this around on you again. Do you like taking any accountability for anything you do or say? Or do you just sit here and say, you know what, I'm a journalist, I get the right to report?
To rehabilitate, like the programs for SOs, because that would mean that he would have to admit that he had done something wrong. Because a part of the programs in Seagoville is that if you're going to go through the SO rehabilitation and the therapy programs that are offered,
You know, he's always going to be listed as one of those because of his crime, even when he gets out. But I think Miss Katie would still go ahead and keep tabs on him.
the inmates, they have to admit they did it. They have to admit they have victims. They have to admit that.
The way you say victim, I don't understand your issue with that word, but you always pronounce it the same way.
Their behavior and their conduct is what landed them in Seagoville. And in order for them to properly reform and change behavior, they have to acknowledge that they're guilty. And he won't. And they said that he never will. They said that will never change.
Well, guess what? Once again, we're on a fact of Miss Katie, right? Because I always say Miss Katie will be Miss Katie and whoever she chooses to be.
Because of who he is and because of his predilection to children. So he has this attraction to children. He won't accept that he has the attraction. He won't admit it. He won't acknowledge it. He has harmed other children.
Hey, he's a pedo. Yeah, let's just shortchange it.
His sisters at one point, they were serious.
Would you get over the sisters point? Let me just tell you, they don't want to be reminded of it day in, day out. Leave them alone and leave their trauma in their past where it belongs.
Seriously concerned about Josh having any access to his children. They requested that the court give him 20 years in prison, and instead the judge said that he would only serve 12 and a half years. They said that Josh is one of the more dangerous offenders.
Hey, aren't you a little happy that isn't it maybe 10 years or so with the way you're saying he's adding on time? Won't you be happy when he gets out? Because then you can try to get at him even more.
The kind of content that he downloaded was some of the most disturbing and, awful. It's like the worst of the worst.
Hey, we ain't gonna talk about your content here. As you can tell, I ain't really talking about Josh. I'm talking about Miss Katie.
Content that he downloaded onto his computer to look at. They made clear that Josh interfered with the Department of Human Services and CPS from interviewing his children. They made clear that they were concerned about if he is released and his children are minors,
I think you're perfecting the whole thing of clickbait when it comes to Josh.
He will have access to minor children, and that they were afraid that his children were victims. But because the kids...
Y'all catching on, victims? Y'all listen for that. I think Miss Katie has been the perpetual victim so long that that's what she calls herself, and she has to put enunciation on it.
Were never interviewed. They could not ask the kids if the kids were victims of his. They wanted him locked up basically forever. And the judge gave him 12 and a half years. And then the judge said, well, after you get out, you'll get supervised release.
So are you happy about the short time or are you sad about the short time? Because you ain't brought us a Josh video in a while.
Another 20 years. But Josh is proving that even when he's locked up, he can't play by the rules. So how do they expect to have him released and play by the rules? To me, Josh is the kind of person that's not safe to be in society.
So you want them to imprison him for the rest of his life. Even though there's people... Okay, Janet, shut up about her.
If he's still accessing the internet and trying to get on cell phones, when his crime and his sentence says he cannot have access to the internet and cannot have access to any cell phones that can contain data or...
Hey, Did we already say in this video, or did we say in this video exactly why he was in trouble? Because I don't think you said he had a cell phone. I don't know if you know what you're talking about.
Store data or have electronic use where you can, look at videos and download the internet access. Like his phone, when he gets out, cannot have internet access. He cannot have internet access when he gets out. He cannot look at any adult.
Do you realize how many times you said the same daggum thing over and over? We understand no internet access.
Content, period. Like
Period. We got it. My goodness, we're almost at the end and I still don't know what he's in trouble for.
Prohibited from it. Even adult content, even though it's legal, because it's such a problem in his life that they don't believe that if he started looking at the adult content, he wouldn't then somehow end up, again, downloading child CSAM.
Okay, so he was on Ashley Madison, right, I think? See, I'm saying right. But I do believe he got on Ashley Madison and Anna still stayed with them.
I will say that, in my opinion, the judges...
What have I told you about her? She waits till the end of every video to give her opinion on something or to set it straight. The reason was because you can't just skim through it. You have to listen to it to find out the information you want.
This sentence was a misjustice to all of the victims. It should have been so much more. And Josh has had so many people give him special treatment from the sentence he received to getting to live in an honors unit, even though...
You use Josh Duggar's name a lot of times whenever it comes down to the videos, or you use Jim Bob. It's very rare that you use any of the other Duggars.
He didn't deserve it. And now he's out of the honors unit, finally. But at some point, there needs to be consequences that are actually meaningful to him.
Do you understand that people think you need consequences, but you seem to always skirt by without them?
And so far, there have been none. And now I did a search about this house that Jim Bob bought that's in Fayetteville.
And you say it's Anna's house. He bought it for Anna, so Anna wouldn't go anywhere. Yeah, like I said, in case you couldn't hear my last video, I'm just repeating it because that's what she's doing.
House claims that it has like 6,000 square feet, but it really doesn't have 6,000 square feet. It's like 3,500 square feet inside.
What does that matter? A house is a house. I don't care how big it is, how small it is. It's a house.
And then it has like a barn that has like other living quarters, or it's kind of like a warehouse that they've converted into living warehouse. So the main house isn't as big as I thought it was.
Ooh, she got it wrong. She got it wrong. Yeah, that tends to happen when you listen to her.
But either way, if he's released, and when he's released, he can't live with kids. So he's not going to be able to live with Anna. I wish.
You don't even know if the house is for Anna. You're saying the house is, but you don't know. All you know is Jim Bob purchased $1 million house.
They could just add new charges to him while he's in prison. And I also think it's interesting that Jim Bob was able to buy that property for $1 million, and he also purchased a property that is a rental company.
Okay, so are you in his pockets? Why do you, what is the issue with you and Jim Bob? Is it because they don't want you talking about them anymore?
It's like a commercial building. He put down $1 million there. So in April, he spent $2 million on properties. He also sold a chunk of land to...
And we're just now hearing about this? You're falling behind.
Walmart for $5 million. And so he has money. And yet Josh says he doesn't have money for attorney.
If Jim Bob has money, then Jim Bob has money. Josh doesn't have to have the same money as Jim Bob. You get that, Miss Katie? That's not how the world works.
To me, just sounds like they're not paying for him anymore. When Jim Bob cuts you off, you done effed up.
Okay, you said that Josh was asking for a court-appointed attorney, and that's when Josh said he couldn't afford anything. Josh can't afford diddly squat while he's up in prison, most likely, and so he would have to rely on Jim Bob. But do you think somebody want to send all their money to the prison? He could make Josh do a little bit of work in there. I mean, it just depends on how he looks at it.
That man has literally covered for him for years. So tell me what your thoughts are about the new.
I've already told you my thoughts, and just because this is only my opinion and for entertainment purposes, because I don't know diddly squat about nothing, and I'm just here to have a little bit of fun on YouTube and hopefully make you smile.
New development in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Oh, shoot, my bad. Yeah, you get to see how she started this. But anyways, I want to know what you feel, what you think, what you're doing down there in that comment section. So make sure you do, because I'm telling you to. Have a good day, night, weekend, holiday, year, whenever you might be watching this. And remember to smile today, or make somebody else smile, because it really can make a difference. Like I said, I just told you to do that, so make sure you do. But I'll catch you in the next video where I have to say something about Miss Kitey. Alrighty guys, y'all have a good one for me. Bye!